Good evening. Good evening. Hey, I just want to just welcome you guys back to another episode of the Conversation 9-8. Again, man, I'm so grateful, so thankful, and so appreciative of your continued support and you guys just rocking with me uh for over a year now. So I'm thankful for that, and I don't take that for granted. I'm excited about the conversation tonight, and I look forward to this conversation. Thank you guys for being able to be flexible with me due to my work schedule. Been doing some field training, so just working around that. Was had this previously scheduled for 1 o'clock today, but had to make some adjustments. But we on tonight. We won't be on before you long, so making sure you let me know where you're tuning in from. Make sure you share this. Make sure you go like my page, the Conversation 8 on Facebook, also the Conversation 9-8 on YouTube. You can go see this. This will be uploaded as well as other episodes are uploaded. I'm very, 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 very appreciative of the support. I do not take that lightly. And I just wanted to just come on and just share that and let y'all know that, hey, look, you appreciate it. But with all that being said, man, let me know where you're tuning in from. Feel free to comment. This is an interactive conversation, and I think tonight conversation is another one of those conversations that's going to be real good in the aspect of creating a dialogue about things that I think everybody deal with. And I try to talk about common issues that people deal with, but usually don't talk about. And so that right there is something that I wanted to get into tonight. And as I was just sitting around thinking, right, one of the things I was thinking about, I was just thinking about, like, what could I talk about this week? And some things, what could I talk about? Like, what is that? What could I talk about? And my process, I'm telling you, my process is I just be in thought and whatever, and working during the week or wherever something pop up, and I get a thought about something to talk about. And this week, the topic popped up, and I really feel like it's a good topic because it's saying stop getting mad at other people for using you and set boundaries. So I say it again. Stop getting mad at other people for using you and set boundaries. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because a lot of times we get mad at other people for using us, but the reality is we're the ones that never set boundaries or never set boundaries for them, and they just going off of what we allowed them to do. And we have created an environment to enable them to act a certain way towards us because we never really set boundaries towards them to respect. And then we get mad at them, and it's easier to get mad at them because guess what? Get mad at somebody else is easier to point the finger instead of look in the mirror and be like, okay, wait a minute, what did I do to contribute to this? What did I do? What did I do? What can I take ownership of it? What role did I play in this? And that's what I said. Let's stop getting mad at other people and just set boundaries. Because when we talk about people using us, right? This is the funny thing, right? This is the not so much of a funny thing, but this is a real thing, right? Everybody, I think naturally people from a natural standpoint, right? I think everybody is afraid of being used. And I think that's a common fear that people have. And I'm speaking for myself. There's a fear of being vulnerable enough to somebody taking advantage of us. And I think we all have that. I think we're all naturally inclined to have that fear or that concern, right? So it's always seemed to be a space where we're fighting against that, but fighting against the reality of existence. But then also there's a lot of things that's tied to being vulnerable that we enjoy, like love, relationships, and all these things. And we fear being used. But the problem is, right, a lot of things we are being used is because we allow ourselves to be used because we don't set boundaries. We don't set boundaries. We just go in under the assumption that somebody will respect those boundaries, but we never clearly articulate what those boundaries are. And that causes problems. That right there causes problems. And it's so easy for us to get mad at somebody else. It's easy for me to get mad at somebody else for using me. It's easy. That's a natural reaction. That's a natural reaction for that, to get upset at somebody for using you. hey, they used me, they took advantage of me, or they took me for granted, they did these things, right? But the question is, what boundaries did you set? And I think a lot of us, we struggle. Um, a lot of us struggle to set boundaries because we were never really taught how to set boundaries. And I'm not talking about you being so guarded that you can't enjoy life, or you being always being so uber hypersensitive and always and being paranoid. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to communicate boundaries is not just assuming that somebody understands your boundaries or the things that you tolerate or can't tolerate. Is having the courage or the ability to articulate that to the other person so that you can say, you know what, that don't work for me, or hey, I don't appreciate that, or hey, this, that, and the third. This is me. These are the things for me. These are the things that are unique to me. Instead of just assuming that that person will respect you for that, just making those assumptions. And a lot of us, we are mad at other people because we're making an assumption that they will respect it, but we made that assumption and we didn't communicate that to get clarity. And by not communicating that to get clarity, what that just leads to is just a lot of perpetual disappointment. And I just think about this, right? There's a lot of people when you're dealing with this type of just getting upset about people using you and not setting boundaries. We go in with the mindset of a lot of relationships with people, not just intimate relationship, but just with people in general. We go in with the mindset of assuming that we give people the benefit of the doubt, or we will make the assumption that the other person is wired to think just like we do. And by doing that, what we do is we set ourselves up to be disappointed or to be used in a feeling like we're used because we're expecting somebody else to act like us instead of communicating to them the things that we need. Because there are certain things that we're wired to do or not to do that it doesn't cross the other person's mind. So the other person may not even be intentionally using you, but you may feel used, all simply because you never clearly articulated what was your boundaries, what was your left or your right limits. And that is on you. You can't get mad at somebody else if you never set boundaries. Like setting those boundaries, when you're talking about setting boundaries, right? Those boundaries aren't talking about a checklist of do's and don'ts. It's just clearly sitting down talking about things that you like or don't like. Or you talk about your experiences. And a lot of times, this is where it gets, I'll say, where a lot of the stuff come from. See, a lot of us deal with things, we have unprocessed stuff from our past, and we carry those things in silence. And by us carrying those things and not being able to face it or articulate it or process it, we go into different relationships with different people. Even if it's intimate, work relationships or whatever, we go in now with the mindset that with the assumptions that the other people will either know or consider those triggers or those things that bother us. And it's hard for us, we'll find ourselves, it's hard for us to communicate like, hey, it's hard for me to communicate what my boundaries are if I never processed the thing that hurt me in my past. So now when I come in contact with other people, the safe thing for me to do is assume that they know. But if by me making that assumption, I'm setting myself up to be disappointed because I never clearly articulate what either bothers me or what I will go for or what I won't go for. And that causes problems. That right there causes a lot of problems. It causes problems because guess what? It leads us to focus a lot of our time, energy, and effort towards other people. And we will spend so much time blaming the other people for something that we caused. And I say that again. We spend so much time blaming other people for something that we caused. And the reason why we caused it is because we never set the conditions or set boundaries prior to. So we just go in under assumptions. And when those assumptions aren't either confirmed or clearly communicated of the expectations, then now we find ourselves mad at somebody else because we assume that they would either know, or we assume that they would not only know, but we assume that they will consider us or understand us in ways that some just may not. And if they don't understand us, and we make the assumption, or we start to feel like we're being used, a lot of times we're not being used. We just haven't communicated to the other person clearly that, hey, you're crossing the boundary. That's all that is. That's all it is. My mom said, some don't set boundaries because I don't want the person to leave. I like that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give that. So it's funny that some people may not even set boundaries because, like my mom said, that they find themselves in a position where they are fearful that their person may leave them if they set boundaries. But what happens with those people, they tend to sit there and not only live with the disappointment of not getting those things that they need, but they live in silence because they always deal with their boundaries being crossed because they were fearful to communicate, because they were fearful that they were going to lose the person. They didn't want to say, hey, look, I got it, but this right here, this is the left limit, this is your right limit. These are things that I may or may not compromise on, and I need you to respect it. But by them not doing that, they live in perpetual frustration over and over and over for fear of losing them, and then being frustrated and being mad at the other person, all because they never set boundaries. And that's on them. My mom said, if I set boundaries and they don't like the boundaries I have, then they may not like me anymore. Okay. Okay, I got it. If I set boundaries and they don't like me, like the boundaries I have, then they may not like me anymore. And at the same point, you have to get to a space where you got to love yourself enough to choose you. And I'm not saying it in the aspect of being selfish, but saying it in the aspect of not compromising who you are and not even being in the situation to where the person is not even considerate of you and not considerate of value you enough to consider you in the things that may be important to you. So you got to sit there and you have to go through and you have to get to a space, mature to a point to where you realize that sometimes the best thing is to leave. Sometimes the best thing is to walk away and not keep yourself in that situation, because keeping yourself in that situation never gets better when you in a situation to where you are afraid to communicate your boundaries and somebody continue to cross those boundaries. Or you're afraid to communicate your boundaries because you think that they're going to leave you. Well, if you communicate your boundaries and that person leave you, then a lot of times they're doing you a favor. And you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice by continuing to stay because you're choosing to stay out of fear. You're choosing to stay out of fear. And whatever happens because you're choosing your decision is based on fear, then what you'll find out it just perpetuates dysfunction, chaos, and calamity because you are afraid to stand up for yourself. Now, when I say set boundaries again, right, and I'm not going to, I'm not talking from the extreme. I'm just talking about, setting boundaries as far as, and this is another thing. You can't, this is a funny one for me, right? You can't continually get mad at somebody else that you claim that's using you, that you choosing to that always come to you asking you for money, and you choosing to keep giving it to them, and then they never pay you back. But then you get mad at them for never paying you back. You the one that gave them the money. You're the one that continued to choose to give them the money. And that person knows they can come and pull on that cord, and you would give that to them, but they probably never have an intent to repay you. But guess what? They can be friends, family, siblings, whoever, right? If somebody show you that, they show you who they are, they show you how they operate, right? Why am I getting mad at them for them using me when they've already showed me over and over that they would use me? I ain't get mad at them. I got to look at myself in the mirror and be like, guess what? I'm the fool for keep giving them the money. That's on me. That ain't on them. That's on me. I'm gonna pay you on Saturday. My dad said, don't ever get anybody no money on Saturday because it'll be a sad day when you get your money back. But that is one example right there. And it doesn't matter about boundaries, right? And I think this is the big thing, right? Boundaries should not. Boundaries is not you being. Watch this, right? Nobody is exempt from the boundaries that you should set for yourself. Not friends, not family, not foe, not cousin, not wife, not kids, not boss, not co-worker. Nobody is exempt from boundaries that you set for your own self, right? I'm not saying you make a prison for yourself and get so extreme that you just want everything about you. No, but I'm talking about boundaries where sometimes you have to set boundaries for yourself for your own mental health. Sometimes you have to set boundaries for your own well-being. Sometimes you have to set boundaries for yourself to accomplish certain goals. Those things is not always the same, and sometimes they shift, but you are responsible for setting those boundaries. So don't get so frustrated, but make sure you prioritize the boundaries that you set. You can prioritize those boundaries that you set by really being mature in your dealings. And what I mean by being mature in your dealings, right, is you had to get to a space to say, you know what, if I desire peace, right? If you desire peace in your life, if you desire progress, if you desire joy, if you desire the joys of life, if you desire anything that is positive, right? You're going to have to set boundaries. You are going to have to set boundaries. And those boundaries goes to everybody who may want to try to come in and not help you accomplish your goals, not help you achieve the things that you seek. Those boundaries apply to everybody, right? And you control those. And if you are allowing people to come into those boundaries and violate those boundaries and not hold them accountable for that, you can't continue to get mad at other people for going over those boundaries, for using you, because you are not enforcing the boundaries that you set, or you haven't set boundaries yourself. You can't do that. You can get mad. You can get mad all you want to. You can sit there and get mad and be like, you know what? Well, they should have, and they should have done this, and they shouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't have. This is the funny thing. People say all the time. People say all the time, well, I wouldn't have done that. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have done that. And they will always, it's so easy to try to say what you wouldn't have done and talk about you from your perspective and not consider that everybody else is different. Everybody else have a different thought process. Everybody else have different priorities. Everybody else have different preferences, likes, dislikes. So if I always go off of what I feel like somebody else is, and I base my expectations, what somebody else would do, I will consistently find myself being frustrated, because guess what? I'm not articulating my boundaries. I'm just assuming that they understand those boundaries, but I'm not articulating. And if I don't articulate it, then I find myself in that space where I'm mad. That's on me. If I do that, that is on me. I cannot get mad at other people and try to point the blame at other people for quote unquote violating boundaries that was never articulated. That's the same as if me giving you a ticket for parking in a parking lot that don't have the lanes outlined with where cars supposed to go. You got to have that outline. You got to have that provided. You got to set some boundaries so people to understand, okay, this is the structure. This is the structure of how I interact with this person. And now when I say boundaries, I'm speaking on positive boundaries. I'm not talking about that negative stuff. Because see, a lot of times people set things in place to protect themselves for their unwillingness to deal with hurt and trauma and pain from their past. So they'll try to act like they got all these boundaries set up, but those are unhealthy boundaries. I'm talking about those healthy boundaries. I'm talking about those healthy boundaries, those boundaries that protect your peace, right? Not get you, not those boundaries that are set up to keep me comfortable from or keep me comfortable for not wanting to deal with my issues or deal with my past or process. I'm talking about those healthy boundaries that help me get to that next level. That healthy boundary that I set, that guess what? I've been through that toxic situation. You've been in that toxic relationship and you've been with that toxic person. And you say, you know what? I'm cutting off all communication. I'm not going to deal with that person. So I'm going to set boundaries up to where I'm going to block them from having access to me. I'll block them on social media. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm going to take this time to focus in on me so that I can heal. And I can heal and I can do the things that I need to do. That's a positive form of boundaries. A negative form of boundary is, now I'm always I'm quick and I'm always angry and I'm snapping at people and I'm always blaming all this stuff. And you ain't gonna talk to me all like this, that, and the third. But that's all come from you got unhealed stuff that you dealt with. And you take stuff that somebody may be speaking to you in one way, but you assume it the other way because you got unhealed issues. You have unhealed issues. We got some to get to. My mom said, also setting boundaries and always allowing boundaries violation is the same for not having boundaries. Yep. And my cousin Julia said, you know what you haven't done, but you don't know where you are going. That is so true. That's so true. And just with this whole thing with boundaries, right? I think a lot of the quality of life that we experience can be greatly increased if we just take the time to identify and set boundaries in our lives. Set boundaries for how people you know, one of the things, this is one of the sad things, right? There are some people that's in your life, right, that take you for granted. You may be consistent, maybe always there. There's moms that's always there, always gonna be dependent on. There's wives they're always consistent, can be dependent on their husbands, always there, wherever you may fall, right? There are people that there are people who are taken for granted because of they'll always be consistent, right? And the thing about it is, because of their consistency, they continue to give because they are committed to such and such relationship. And they feel that the respect or the effort should automatically be reciprocated, right? But a lot of times the people are continuously neglected and taken advantage of in those situations or taken for granted is because people don't communicate what those boundaries are. And those boundaries can simply be, hey, I love you, but I only would do so much if I don't get certain things in return. And guess what? But that right, not saying that that is not saying that it's conditional. What it is saying is that I have limitations. And it's not so much I would do this if you do that. It's just saying I'm consistent here and I see that I'm being taken advantage of. So I will speak up and I'm gonna say, you know what? The stuff that I was doing, I'm switching that up. I'm not doing what I used to do no more. Why you ain't doing that? Well, you showed me that you're not appreciating the efforts or the things that I've been doing and I've been committed to do for you. So I'm going to switch it up because you've been taking me for granted. What do you mean by taking me for granted? Well, hey, you can depend on me to do X, Y, and Z, right? But then when I need you to do A, B, and C, I can't depend on you to do the same thing. So guess what? I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. I'll probably just do X because now you're protecting your own peace. See, that's what I talk about with positive boundaries. That's not saying that you're doing things out of spite and envy or spite. They're just articulating, hey, these are the boundaries that I'm setting. Because guess what? You're always going to have to adjust your boundaries. You will. I don't care whatever you try to argue, you can set what your boundaries are when you're 20, not going to be the boundaries when you're 25, not going to be the boundaries when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 60, 70. You're going to have different boundaries. And as you see, the thing is, if you're able to watch, I watch people get older, and you say, you know, when people say people get old, the older they get, the more blunt they get, and people simply just straight up tell you what's on their mind, is because you start to realize, right, that you set certain boundaries, that you just won't tolerate certain stuff. and you just start to speak up for yourself to say, hey, look, I'm not in that business. I'm not going to tolerate that. Right? So just take time to look at yourself. Let's look in the mirror and stop getting so mad at other people for using you when you're the one that never set boundaries. Now, there's a difference between holding people accountable for violating your lines of the limits of your boundaries. There's a difference between holding people accountable for crossing the line that you articulated that they crossed. There's a difference between that and then screaming that you're being used because you never told them, hey, look, this is what it is. And it's just like this, even with parents. You're a parent, and your parenting style is you just want to be very friendly with your child and you never hold them accountable. And then all of a sudden now, boom, you drawing the line. There's gonna be some friction points. There will be friction points with that. But guess what? You have to draw those lines. And I would tell you, once you draw those lines in whatever relationship that you're in, you'll start to find a better quality of life, not only for you, but a better quality of life for that relationships, because people understand what are their limits and what are their boundaries, what they can get away with, what they can't get away with. And we have a responsibility as individuals. We have a responsibility to simply communicate that. First of all, identify what those boundaries are, and then get to the genesis of why we want to implement those boundaries. Because a lot of times people will they will imprison themselves under the guise or the veil of setting boundaries. But what they're doing is they're imprisoning themselves simply because they don't want to deal with a lot of things with themselves. So they will set up all of these boundaries about how they protecting themselves, but what they're really doing are imprisoning themselves. And I don't want us to be in a space to where we are imprisoning ourselves instead of protecting ourselves and protecting our peace. And watch this, as far as what there will be some people that will take advantage of you. What I am speaking on is those people who are quote unquote, we feel like taking advantage of us, that are not really taking advantage of us. We just never really set boundaries. If my daughter right now come and ask me for $20, and I always give her $20, and I always give her $20, and she keep coming back to me, but I'm getting mad because I'm giving her $20 and she's spending, but I never talk to her about her spending habits and this, that, and the third, then how can I get mad at her but feeling like she's using me when I'm always the one giving? And I never talk to her about the accountability for giving. That's on me. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of us in a lot of situations like that, what we do is we quickly blame somebody else for something that we didn't set boundaries for. And I would just tell you that is 100% on the individual. That is 100% on me. If I did that, that's 100% on me. That ain't on nobody else. And I got to go back, look in the mirror, and identify what my boundaries are. Once I identify what my boundaries are, then I enforce those boundaries. But no, not only enforce, I articulate those boundaries to the individual or individuals. And then guess what? Then I enforce those boundaries. But I do it in a way that I'm respectful of the other person. I'm respectful of them. And not only am I respectful of them and I expect them to respect my boundaries, I also respect their boundaries as well. And by doing so, you'll start to realize that, hey, you have a lot, you'll find a lot more peace in your life, and you'll find a lot more joy in your life, and you'll find a lot more things out of life because you are adding structure to your life. You're adding order to your life. And you start to realize and prioritize those things that are important for you to live a certain quality of life that is aligned to the promises of God that God has for your life. And I just tell you, that is such a beautiful and great thing. I appreciate you guys so much, man. Just this conversation and being able to have this. I would say episode 91. This is the 91st episode. And that all started with God giving me a vision so much. Just, hey, look, just have a conversation, an open conversation. And as I look back over a lot of things, I'm very appreciative of just the conversations we had. And I'm appreciative of your continued support. So again, go and like my page, The Conversation 98 on Facebook. Also, you can go to The Conversation 98 on Instagram. And then also on YouTube, the Conversation 9A channel. This will be uploaded there. And thank you guys so much. I'm excited. Got big things coming for episode 100. So thank you guys so much. Have a great and wonderful day. God bless.